Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Adoptees podcast. So, all the way from Dominica, we have Donna Joseph, the healing adoptee. Hello, Donna.
Hello, Simon.
How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah. Just pretend we haven't been chatting about all sorts of stuff for the last 26 minutes.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
the healing adoptee. The healing adoptee. So, what does healing mean to you, Donna?
I think I've been healing, or I think I've been healing all my life, actually. Thinking about it, I've been thinking a lot about this recently. Even, subconsciously was healing through my sprinting as a runner. I didn't realize that I was healing myself, releasing energy that was obviously really built up. That was healing. A lot of my life was focused on healing towards others, more so than myself, consciously to others, working in a refuge, women's refuges, hospitals with children, elderly. I've really, CSA, child sexual abuse, areas that I have either can relate to myself, or areas that I'm just really passionate about. Yeah, it's all been healing.
Yeah.
So the healing adoptee, to me, it wasn't even something I needed to think about, really. It was one of those sort of words that the two went together so well for me in describing how I will work with this going forward for myself and for others. So a
Yeah.
healing adoptee, healing adoptees. Yeah, I'm the healing adoptee right now and maybe forever. I don't know. Um, but it's healing adoptees because I'll always be for others. I keep people as I know I have to focus on me now, but eventually it will be healing for others.
Yeah. What
Adoptee
ha- what happens? What happens through that process?
through the process of
Healing.
healing. Well, for me, subconsciously, I was actually stepping myself to where I am today through healing. But I didn't, and I still don't really know where I'm going. I'm figuring it out more, but I am expanding my awareness of myself every every stage I go. And it's always been painful for me, actually, but it was always a bit secretly painful before. And it was in I think a lot of adoptees feel this. You just don't really communicate it. I had issues with my nervous system for 20 years and I never said a freaking word other than to people that were really close to me. And I didn't tell the doctor, and I knew there was something really fundamentally wrong with me, but I kept it a secret. I was ashamed. Because I kind of knew that it was this deep level shit that I didn't go near. I didn't go to. So I just kept it at bay. Like basically, my hands used to shake in certain situations, and if you got too close to me, my whole face would tremble, and I have no control. I'd seem to have no control over it, and the more I thought about it, the worse it got. And so I was going through this, and but I was always searching for things to help me, but I didn't quite realize how much I needed the help. I was always helping others. It was never really about me, even when I was like a trembling wreck, and it wasn't about me. That figure you out until 2020, and then something changed, and I found something out, and that did switch things for me. That knowledge, but before then, it was all for others, and healing is to help them. And I think healing for me comes from a place of feeling suffering myself and feeling that pain myself, especially as a young child. And wanting to heal that for others, wanting to, really having a heart. I feel it. I talked to you earlier, I know we did, about the feelings I have, very powerful. And I've always felt this huge wealth of, heart felt for children, and, anything that's vulnerable, anything that's really, I think now I realize, a reflection of myself, of what I felt, but I didn't know that. It's all going on as a little secret, I think, for me.
Yeah. As I asked you what a couple of those questions, I could feel you actually step into the pain. It was quite scary.
I
could actually
do.
see it changing on,
Yeah.
on your face. And I wanted to ask you, listeners, you wouldn't have been able to see that.
I have to watch that back and see it. I find it so fascinating. I sometimes see myself having a little few therapy sessions with my husband. Sorry, we'll come back to what you're saying, but I did catch myself, and I could see I'm doing a bit of inner child work, which is, I'm finding extremely powerful. And I looked at myself, as I can see now, if I look at myself, and it was the pain. There was so much pain there. So my physiology, it's very difficult for me to be a poker player because you can see what I'm feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. So you feel stuff very deeply, and then you put yourself in these really horrendous situations where all those feelings are going on, like abused women or abused kids and stuff like that. It must have been a freaking nightmare for you.
No, not at all. No. So no, because I mean, the work I do with children is as a children's entertainer. So I'm making them laugh, I'm making them smile, or I'm talking to them and they're having fun. At the refuge, I was doing meditation and mindfulness retreats, and going there and getting them to learn how to breathe and slow down. And on the radio in the hospital, I was going around and getting hospital requests from the patients and then playing them on the radio for them. So no. And even there was a lady last year on Zoom was suicidal, and I didn't know her, but I was on a group and I said, let's get onto Zoom. And she claims now I saved her life because I did not leave her until she went to bed. But you're right, Simon. I do know these things do impact me, like certainly on the adoptee side. Like I would speak to an adoptee when I first came out of the fog, and then I would just be wiped out for like 3 weeks, and I wouldn't be able to really function properly. And it's because the impact of the validation of speaking to adoptees really did impact me. So I do know likelihood that yes, certain, and that call with that lady probably did take a hell of a lot out of me. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I'm not going in there as someone that's like almost just absorbing. I'm an energy person, and I've talked about how I feel. So I have a light. I have a light that is shining, that I will shine, and that helps my light to shine. There's a lot of people, some family members of Donna, like, just stop doing these things for others, and I'm like, but I'm realizing that since coming out of the fog, and I'm not doing all of these things, which is great because I do need to be thinking about doing things for me. But while I'm thinking about that, my light isn't shining for me either. But at least it was shining for others, and it was shining for me when I was doing things. So yeah, I can't remember how we got onto that.
Yeah, you've just cracked something wide open for me. So between 2013 and I guess 2019, 2018, I did a lot of work in schools, and it was like similar stuff to you, maybe. I guess it was emotional intelligence, positive psychology, truth about life, making your dreams come true, understand where your feelings come from, rise above people that say you can't make your dream come true, and rise above bullying. So those themes in the UK. And I've just come back from the States, and so I've worked with about 1,600 kids in the UK.
How many?
1,600 kids.
What age? What age group?
8 to 11.
Fabulous.
And that was over like 8 years. And then I've been to the States for like a week, and I probably spoke to 700 kids in that week. Not so. The last session I did was with 115 kids.
And how was that?
Well, that's what you cracked open for me. The energy in the States was a lower energy than it was in the UK.
Mm.
Pretty much, and I was trying to figure out what was different.
Mm.
I've had some. Yeah. It's a long story, and I won't go into it for the podcast. But the energy was different. Let's just put it that way. The energy was different, and I was thinking it was something to do with me, and it wasn't. It was to do with their
it's
energy and their teachers and the
yeah.
teachers. So one of the teachers said, "I love on they got these kids trooping into this hall and sitting down in lines, and this woman was this." Head teacher or deputy principal, whatever she was ordering these kids around. And I was like, and then she talked about she loving these kids. And I thought, well, it doesn't seem very loving to me, you know. And so anyway, what happened in 2020?
I was quite engrossed into your.
I know. But this is a podcast about healing adoptees.
I want to know. We'll talk
about that afterwards.
Another time. Yeah, in 2020, I went on an event in London in London with a friend, and it was one of these like I've been on so many personal development courses and done and learned so much. Never made the money that these things said. Money's always been a bit of I'm on it now, but it's always been a bit of an issue for me. But anyway, I did all these courses, and I went to one in London. It was just before the lockdown in London, which was March, wasn't it, 2020? And this was in January, and I went with a good friend from Birmingham. And the very first day, it was one of these music was on loud, you were there dancing, and then it was like, right, get ready, slow down, turn to your left, to the person stood there. Thank God it was my friend. Thank God. The music went down. Everything went really calm. And that exercise was to just look into each other's eyes and be really still and to read each other with love. It was the hardest thing for me to contain myself together. It happened before I'm a hypnotherapist. Well, I'm not a practicing one, but in the training room, the similar thing happened when all the students were looking at me, and I had to close my eyes and just they were going to pick up on my breathing. Well, you've got no chance because now I know you're looking at me, and there's all sorts of panicky things that went on. And it's what happened on this exercise with my friend, and I couldn't hold it together. My nervous system went to pot completely. Only my friend saw it, And when this used to happen, it was an attack. It would attack me mentally, physically, spiritually, every way, you know, and I could feel so, you know, and the more I thought about it, the more it got worse. And afterwards, my friend took my hand, made me cry. She took my hand and she said, oh God, it's emotional. What, what, what happened? And it was just like tears just streaming down, because it was like, it was the secret was out. I couldn't hide it anymore. And I didn't want to hide it. I never wanted to hide it. I always wanted to understand what it was. But I always knew it was from a deep place. And the closest I got to figuring it out was because throughout all my life, I dodged the adoptions so well. With child abuse and being black in a white family, you know, something came out where it was obvious it was trauma, because it was a brain trauma recovery program that really helped me understand what was actually physically happening to me. And the closest I got to understanding where it came from was, when you have something happen to you, you can go into a flight or freeze. And this nervous attack can almost take you back to that. If you're in that freeze, it can take you back to that freeze memory. So for example, if you were abused, you know, it's like, so if someone comes too close to you, suddenly you've got that, you know, and that was the closest I got to understanding what the cause of this might be. I dodged adoption and any of the relinquishment and all of the other stuff completely for 50 years. And but thankfully, from that time with my friend, we went for lunch and I opened up to her and I said, you know, Carmen, I've had this for so long. And I said, will you help me? And I said, what I need to do, I said, we need to do that again. So we have to do it again. I says, I want to do it again, and I want to be really cut, and I want to heal. And it was fabulous, actually, Simon. And it was really even more fabulous that somehow I'd managed to book myself onto this. I've got the certificate here. I did the trauma, brain, and recovery attendance with the mind breakthrough thing. I had no idea what I was going to. It was 2 weeks after this London trip, and a doctor there explained how the brain worked, described something that was exactly like my panic attacks. I spoke to him about it at lunchtime, and he said, you will probably start to feel better from now, Donna, because you now know what it is. And he was so right. Just the knowledge, the understanding, the knowing that this was something that had broken, and it had caused this. And it didn't come to adoption. I don't think if I mentioned adoption 20, you know, it wasn't it wasn't there. But there was abuse, there was childhood trauma, and there was a lot of sadness in my childhood, a huge amount of traumatic experiences that happened, and that were never understood, or, you know, by anyone, or at least myself. And he helped me understand that that's what it was. And he was the first person that helped me. And he said, you know, meditation, which I've been trying to do for 20 years, he said, that's good. He said dancing, which I was also doing, running, exercise. And I realized then, you know, I have actually subconsciously been doing a lot of these things. But the not knowing what it is the problem, because I became very good at hiding how I really felt throughout all my life. I think now I realize that was probably from when I was 1. I was hiding, and I didn't know that, obviously, but this secret was out, and occasionally it still happens. occasionally. But there's things that I've learned, like anchoring. There's a lot of resilience, breathing. You know, I've taught mindfulness, so I know all the tools to slow. If I start breathing slowly, then my mind can't panic so much, because the message to my mind is that, well, she's calming down now. But the last thing I would be doing while I'm there with my friends is calming down. I'm having a freaking panic attack. My heart's going, you know, it's the exact opposite. My body, my function, my response was the exact opposite to what I needed at that time. So now if it does happen, I do know what to do. And I'm also less secretive about it. It's like, I'll have a laugh with it. Oh, I'm just having another attack, don't worry. You know, and try not to take life and this certainly so seriously, because it plagued my life, Simon, for 20 years, which is really shit. Yeah. When you don't know what it is. I made a note of this when I was listening to your interview with Catherine. You know, when you were discussing about you know, when, well, your which I do have a synergy with your diamond, I really do. But it was something came up for me. It was like, well, I don't know where it was or the context was, but it came up that 20 years. It's kind of it was there because I didn't know. And I don't know how I related that with what you were saying with Catherine. And it wasn't against what you were saying. It was just like a pondering question. Yeah, but that really lingered and was just there because I didn't know what it was. But I don't know. Anyway, that did come up. There's a chain of thought through listening. Loads of things came up from that interview that you did with Catherine. I thought it was wonderful, by the way.
Catherine Vogley?
Yeah.
Birth month. Have you listened to the one with Laura?
No.
She's a birth mother.
You are?
She's a birth mother as well.
Yes. There's
another one as well.
Yeah.
Patricia.
I haven't heard that one. I haven't seen. Is it? No, I haven't seen that one. But did you do the Catherine one not long ago? That was quite recent. Yeah.
So there's one with Patricia Florin, which is another birth mother, and she's into the same stuff as me. So that was you know, great. Like we could talk on. We didn't have to have we had a shared understanding of what we were talking about. So we could just go straight to the depth.
Well, what was beautiful about Catherine and you talking was because I feel an incredible synergy is not the right word. That's all, but it's something, you know, like I could just feel when we did an interview with her, there was the constellation. It was like she was just talking my language, like when she was expressing her journey, the decades was I could have been saying, it could have been me talking, you know, with the wall. Hers was a box, a lead box, and she was in, and it's everything was like, I was like listening, oh my God. And I'd never met her before the interview, and it was like, goodness. Yeah. So I feel a huge connection, and even more so after that interview, because you, in that interview, both of you very beautifully went, you know, to the, as she said in her book at the end, you know, without realizing it, the eclipse. Well, that's how you ended the interview as well. And so it was almost like a final realization as well. So, but that's on another level of what we've got in common now, me and Catherine, because she got it through talking to you. She kind of understood it through that interview, and I did too. So it kind of, I felt even closer to Catherine in a way, because it was like, yeah, and I've already shared with you, I do. It is, for me, it is all about onwards and upwards. And if it wasn't, that's in me, because if it wasn't, I wouldn't be here today. What's kept me going and being here is because I've always, even if I haven't felt it, I kind of have been pretty good at putting a smile on my face, and making other people feel happy, even if I'm not really feeling it. I can still, it's been a drive of mine to do that, because it's helped me. I used to call it daydreaming, Simon. I daydreamed myself to here. I realized I disassociated myself here. But the truth of the matter is, I got out of what it was that was really going on and thought of something better. And that's what then was ahead of me, and I stepped into. And that's the message, really. Because so easily you can go the other way and it doesn't work. It doesn't work very well. I don't know whether that ties in with anything that we've just talking about.
It's just a conversation, right?
Yeah, I like that. I like that. But you were saying, so Patricia Flores, and Laurie, yeah, I'm going to look.
Patricia Florin, right? So the thing about Patricia is she's got the same initials as my birth mother. My mother was Patricia as well. My birth mother was Patricia. Right.
Wow. There's
And I
no
think
such
she even got the middle. I think she even got the same middle initial as well. Sorry, I talked over.
No, I just said there's no such thing as coincidences in my world anymore. That's crazy. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I've just gone tingly all over. I just did another episode before, recorded another episode before you, and Cindy is a adoptee. She said that uh, she was watching a documentary about the Katrina babies, so the babies who lost their parents because of the Katrina hurricane storm. And she watching that, she said nobody came back for us. Nobody came back to check on the babies, right? And she said, watching that, she said nobody came back for us. And I, the first thing that popped into my head is she does some advocacy work to try and open up the adoption records, right? So the first thing that came into my head was, well, the reason that they can't come back to, the birth mothers can't get access to the records to come back, find us, right? But when you just said what you just said, I thought, well, Patricia, Laura, and Catherine have come back for us.
Wow. Yeah. And it did feel that. Quite emotional, actually. It really did feel that from that interview that I did. And I've reached out to Beth, not Beth, Beth was the adopted mum, but another lovely lady that really was so grateful to her. But yeah, Catherine, I've reached out to her whilst listening to the interview with you, actually. And I said, look, we need to talk, because it's been a while. And that was another example of me kind of getting together, and it might happen after this, even with you, Simon. There is a like, which is why I said I love my job that I'm doing, because it's so kind of like because I do these things and you don't realize the impact that it has. So I've kind of did that constellation interview, and then it's been nearly probably 2 months. And at the time, oh yeah, we'll connect. We've got to, and then just you don't. But listening to that again, it's like, no, we must. And yeah, my birth mother was gone, and I found out at 12. And it was so a lot of grieving that didn't go on, but was always there. that grief, but I didn't know. Yeah, the not knowing what the pain is, or even that there's anything, you must be crazy, you must be at fault. All of those feelings and emotions, I could really feel the same. It's like, how mad is this, that this is a birth mother? Well, not mad, sad. That's sad, but also how lovely that we're connecting and, albeit a screen, so close now.
Have you heard my swimming pool metaphor?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Sorry, listeners, if you've heard this one before, but I think it's beautiful. And it's my show. I will be very quick.
It's my show.
It's my show. I'm going to heal my inner child. Right. So around Christmas time, my swimming pool shuts, so I go somewhere else. And it's a 50-meter pool, 60-yard pool with a massive plastic wall that raises out of the bottom of the swimming pool.
I'm going to let you continue, but you mentioned this in the interview that I listened yesterday, but carry on. Yeah, say it again, because, yeah.
So it divides one big pool into two little pools, right? So that they can have two races going on at the same time. So when I read this letter from my birth mother about the teddy bear, and the tears flooded down my face, washing away my intense 20 seconds of anger and 20 seconds of fear of her completely. And it was like the wall in that swimming pool coming down. So we were two people, as in two swimming pools, that became one as I felt connected with her through a letter that she'd written 48 years before I read it. And then I realized that it's not just me connecting with her. I've had that feeling in rugby stadiums, hearing national anthems, when I'm not even Irish or Scottish, right? Or Scottish or Italian, or Scottish and French. Those are the outputs, the matches I watched. I've had that concert. I've had that experience in concerts, in the Killers concert in Sheffield. I've had that on a looking down a valley, sat outside a pub drinking a pint of beer in Upper Nidderdale and looking down the valley. I've had that feeling of connection, and that connection is when the feeling of connection is actually the feeling of love, because there's no separation between us. That's what you felt, I think, listening to Catherine. You felt there was no separation between you. So that was a lived experience of that quote that I say all the time. We're one spiritual being having 8 billion human experiences. We are one spiritual being having 7, 8 billion, whatever it is, human experiences. It's one being. It's a feeling of oneness. Now, the quote says it, but the metaphor delivers the feeling. Well, it does for me anyway. Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's it. There's no separation between us. We are one. And we are however many thousand miles away from York to Dominica, and 18 inches away by screen. And this is the space that we get to. This is the space we get to, often get to, on the podcast, having these conversations. And at that moment, on the flip of that, he's like, well, chatting to have you met Vin? Have you heard me talk to Vin, the Aussie guy, Indian transracial adoptee?
Oh yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
brilliant guy. He was saying to, I was telling them that Hayley Radke's got 1 million downloads of her podcast, um, and um, and I'm on whatever I'm on 30,000, 40,000. And at that point, old Simon wants the 1 million downloads, but new Simon, who cares?
Mm.
Who cares about the downloads? Because of the space that we touch doing the podcast makes it all worthwhile. And then when you tell me that you've listened to the podcast and you've got in that feeling, well, it just made my day. Yeah. It's made me
Yeah,
a year.
yeah, and it's always out there now as well. So you can help so many.
And,
Um, Timeless. I think the work that we do is timeless for others. Um, as well, definitely.
and and that I was going to ask you what expanding awareness of myself. You mentioned that word, right? Expanding awareness of myself. What that means to me is
Yeah.
what I just expressed. But what does it mean to you?
So I'll start with this because it was going through my heart, my mind when you were just sharing just now the connection. I I had a connection with my birth mother, I believe, and before I even knew about the adoption and relinquishment or out of the fog, it was kind of obvious. Like me finding my birth mum was dead at the time that she was committed suicide, and the push of energy and the frustration and anger to see her, and my parents like pulling their hair out and eventually persuading social services to get a picture of her is what resulted in me finding out she was dead. There's a connection. And for me, whether it was, the metaphor is it's not broken at all and or anything. And I know, but that wasn't understood. And that was the problem. I think if someone had come to me and held me at that point and said, Donna, and helped me understand what all of this was, then there was a chance that this was gonna be not as damaged as it was. But it went from bad to worse after then. And I will write a book about it one day, because it really did just go from bad to worse in every possible way you can imagine. And by the time I was 22, I kind of got out of it, which is unbelievable. But it was a little secret again, all of it. So an awareness to have this expanded awareness is like, I've always kind of known that there's all this sort of stuff going on, but I wasn't really in tune with it because I was so separate from myself, my true self. There was such a wall hiding me behind it. The true essence of me was like Catherine described. It's like, and the way the inner child is, she's 3 or 4 years old and she couldn't turn around and even look, let alone try and understand. She's like scared shitless of what happened because it did all go freaking wrong. So that's all in the way of that. And you never, until I met adoptees, did I feel even 5,000 miles away with this screen. Like I got that hug. I got that understanding and that validation for the first time. So the increased amount of connected, whatever you were saying, whatever I said, expanded awareness is the knowledge of all of that finally. The starting to understand that, like what you say with your diamond, that connection with my mother, birth mother, was real. Of course it was real. It's like I was in her for 9 months and she was coerced to give me up. And, at 12 years old, and for her, it was, and she went straight into a relationship, got battered black and blue, tried to do it with another baby. It didn't work. And and I think, I believe we felt each other. I really do. The more I now know how I feel so much, it's like, and my mum, I came from my mum. So if I'm a feeler, high chance she was too. And it's an expanded awareness of that. And that's the beauty. Two words that I'm saying a lot together is it's been painfully, or it is painfully beautiful. It's beautiful what is going on, because there's no more secrets to myself anymore. I'm not hiding. I'm coaxing that little girl to turn around, because now I've got answers for her. But for 50 years, I didn't have any answers. And I was merged in with that little girl. That's the expanded awareness. It's me being able to go back to when I was 18 and things happening, and being able to look at them and understand. Of course, you're going to have got bloody addicted to drinking alcohol, cigarettes and alcohol. Thank God it wasn't heroin, Donna. Well done. I understand now, but I didn't before, Simon. I didn't have a freaking Scooby-Doo of where this was or where it came from. And I don't want to hold on to it, because I know that's, like what you say, there's a danger with the primal wound of the pain taking over. And that's why I like those two words. It's painfully beautiful. There is a beautiful ending to this, or there's a beautiful journey to this pain. Find the right way to work with that pain, heal that pain. Simon, you've openly said yours, compared to others. But there is no, that you can't, it needs some level of healing, even though it is and can be and is beautiful. Comes from a beautiful place and ends in a beautiful place. But we've got to explore that journey and understand that pain without getting swallowed up by it. And that I'm worried about the primal wound a little bit, because I think it can engulf people in that pain. And you gotta get out of that. You can't stay in there for too long. And that's, connected. What did I say? Expanded awareness. Is that what it was?
Expanding awareness of myself.
Expanding awareness of self. Yeah. Does that make sense? When I talk sometimes, Simon, I think I come from, I don't really, I can say it and then I don't realize what I just said.
Well, that's the genius.
Hopefully it makes sense.
That's your brain struggling to catch up with you, keep up with your genius.
Oh, is that it?
So it seems to me.
Okay.
So let me make it really clear what I think, or let me play it back, right? Expanding awareness of myself. So what I think you said was, you and your mother are one. That's what I think you said.
Yeah.
And that's what I said about the swimming pool. And, and that's what I said about, one spiritual being having 7 billion experiences. That's what I was saying about the rugby national anthems, the rugby stadium. That's what I was saying about the concert stadium. It's an expanding awareness of myself. So we are all one.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know where this journey is going to take me, Simon, but it's taken me somewhere where that is becoming much more of a reality. We are all one, always have been. And so of course your birth mother, and I'm feeling really aligned with the feminine energy of my my grandmothers, and um just really getting more comfortable with myself and who I am, because we are all one, but a sense of self has to come kind of first in a way. Do you know what I mean? I've been missing this um part of me. There's parts of me that are still a little bit fragmented, if you like, that I'm working on. And I know that this work that I'm doing is helping me to really, yeah, be more present with that we are all one. Because it's about being in the present moment at the end of the day. And it can be very easy for us, or for me especially, to not be in the present moment. And when I'm not in the present moment, I can easily think that, no, I'm not all one. I'm in battle in myself again. You know, because it can be like, you know, but no,
Well, it's one
I
of those. Now we see it, now we don't. Now we see
yeah.
it, now we don't. Now we see it, now we don't.
And that's the journey, right? We see it all the time to get there, be in the moment. We are all one. All,
Well, I
even when things are incredibly like testing, and just we can still feel that connection of what is really important. And in the present moment, nothing else really matters.
well,
Quite a long way to go for that.
yeah. Um, so you're stretching me here. Uh, it's simpler than that, in my view. It would be we're always we're always only one. We just don't feel it all the time.
Yeah, you're right. And that's a lovely way. We are always, that is it. Yeah, we are connected.
So
We are feeling disconnected, but
the
we
feeling gets in
are.
the way.
Yeah,
The feeling gets in the way. The feeling is the wall, like like the fist,
yeah,
that's the diamond.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, so I've got the title now. I've got the title for the episode, "Painfully Beautiful."
Painfully beautiful. Yeah. Well, that's, yeah, really is.
Anything else you want to finish on before we bring it in?
Not really. Oh, I've written something actually. Just when you were talking about the connection, the feeling with the rugby. Do you remember Euro 96? Is it 96? Um, I cried. And I don't really watch football. But you know, I'm obviously from the UK. I was living in London at the time, and I think we were in the finals or the semi-finals, England against Germany probably. And the penalties, I went to penalties. And I think the whole work up to that, and then when we lost. So yeah, I just wrote that down because you're right, that connection with everything, you feel it then, don't you? And I was so upset, Simon. I mean, I really was. It was, uncontrollable tears over a freaking football match. There was a real connection.
Yeah.
And the energy, and this is where music comes in. I love music. I love that energy, like the children. What would be really good in that American school, is if you could have somehow had some music or something that could have, because I can't do a party without a specific warm up that is getting those kids doing something that I know is going to get them aligned with my energy. Because if that doesn't happen, you're going to be where and it's not, yeah. I don't know
I
why I went.
lead.
Oh yeah, that was Euro '96.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Leeds United, which is my team, and I'm like, I call it my team. I just look at the results. That's it. I wouldn't call myself a fan. But they stayed up. They were going to be relegated last year, and they stayed up. And I cried with relief when they stayed up. So it's funny what football can do to us, right? Beautiful conversation, painfully beautiful.
Okay,
Thank
really
you very
beautiful.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donna.
Yeah.
Thank you, listeners. We'll speak to you again soon. Ta for now. Bye.